Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Today we recap some heartbreaking NFL playoff losses for teams that I was rooting for. We look at some local high school basketball as several local teams picked up wins this weekend, and we look at Hog basketball as they placed a beatdown on Vanderbilt.
Live from the River Valley Leader Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
Welcome into Sports Blitz Monday. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton in studio, rivervalleyleader.com. I'm not real excited about the way that the football games went this weekend. I was 3-1 with my picks, but for those of you that watched, Weldon and I both had we were both 3-1, right?
Yeah, same picks this weekend.
Both 3-1 this weekend, but I was rooting for the other team in 3 of the 4 games. So I was not excited with the way the games went, although I was right with some of those picks. We had the Hog basketball win, although it was a terrible game. Just
it was
terribly terrible execution offensively.
No flow at all.
Just one of those games that you just we got the win, but it was pretty ugly. Weldon, how was your weekend?
My weekend was good. I mean, you mentioned the NFL playoffs. That's what I spent a lot of my time doing as far as in the sports world. I mean, just a lot. I mean, you see how the Denver Broncos game ended, obviously. Performance of Colin Kaepernick. Brady and the Patriots got it done. Drama in Atlanta. I mean, that's a weekend in itself right there. There
were some dramatic turns of events in these football games, and we'll spend a great deal of time today looking at the playoff games. We'll talk about the winners, obviously the matchups that they have coming up this week, and we'll also, Weldon had a good idea today to tie a bow on what needs to happen for the teams that lost to be able to come back next year stronger. Houston, Seattle, Green Bay, and Denver, what they need to get better and what they need to make it to the next level. I think for Houston, one thing they've got to do is just avoid New England. If they hadn't, I mean, I don't know that they would have beaten Green Bay or Seattle, or I'm sorry, that's NFC. I don't know if they would have beaten Baltimore or Denver anyway, but New England's just a bad matchup for them, and they're a bad matchup for a lot of teams. We'll find out this week how well they match up with Baltimore. But Seattle, I think a couple years in this system for Russell Wilson, and man, he gets a receiver or two. I don't want to waste all my points here now, but there are some things that these teams could do to take it to the next level, and I look forward to that. But Weldon, what struck you as the most important or big storyline of the weekend from sports? I mean, it can be NFL.
I mean, it's a lot. I mean, like I said, I would have to keep it within the frame of the NFL weekend. I mean, just looking at the whole sports landscape, obviously here in Hog Country, you see what's going on. Recruiting is in full force. Brett Bielema was all over the place. He did meet with the players as they came back to start classes this week. And so everything's pretty much quiet as we approach signing day. You mentioned the basketball team got a victory over Vanderbilt. So, yeah, I'm looking at what's going on in the NFL. Absolutely can't believe what happened in Denver. I mean, that last play, the catch by Jacoby Jones, is just, you can't explain it. It looked like the Denver Broncos were about to salt that game away. But I also can't get over the fact that the Atlanta Falcons blew a 20-point lead and then just marched down in 2 plays, set themselves up
like
for
it was
field
nothing.
Like it was nothing. I mean, so those would probably be the 2 highlights from my weekend.
Man, I totally agree with the Denver thought. I couldn't when I watched the Atlanta-Seattle game, when Seattle took the lead, I was just walking in the door and I was like,
yeah.
I followed the score on my phone and it was 20-0 and then 27-7, and I thought, well, they're just gonna even if they win close, it's gonna be one of those where the score is not indicative of how much they dominated.
Right.
Seattle takes the lead and I'm thinking, what in the world is going on? And then Matty Ice, you guys have hosed yourselves again. And then they just walk it down the field, kick the game winner. Well, kicked what turned out to be the game winner, and then squibbed one down to the 40-yard line to give them a
that
chance
was awful.
I was just, what? So that was interesting. I was interested to see what Colin Kaepernick did. My goodness. We knew that Green Bay couldn't stop a runny nose, but they 45 points and 180 yards rushing or whatever it was for Colin Kaepernick. We'll look at that game here in a minute. But I'm with you. The 2 overtime game where Denver fell to Baltimore. So many different directions we could go. Peyton Manning, throws the early interception, return for a touchdown on a questionable no call. The late interception that Peyton Manning threw, the kneeling on the ball at the end to take it to overtime.
2 timeouts. Yeah.
With 2 timeouts and 20-some-odd seconds
31,
left.
yeah.
30
seconds,
just like what Atlanta ended up doing. Denver had a chance to go down and make something happen, get the game-winning field goal, did not do it, and it's heartbreaking to me because I'm a Peyton Manning fan, and to see him go out that way now, 9-11 in the playoffs and 0-4 or 5 in temperatures under 40 degrees, 8 playoff losses in the first game for him in his career. So that tells me that Peyton Manning, man, he's just had a run of bad luck.
He's had a run of bad luck, and I tell you, the other side of it really gets on my nerves because now I have to sit up here once again and hear conversations and questions about whether or not Joe Flacco is elite. I thought I put this to bed. I thought we were done with it, but now, Mark, people are going to want to bring it up again. Is he elite? And I'm still saying now, as I said before, it's an emphatic no. Until he can do it on a consistent basis and show that he's big time, I'm not putting him in that elite category. You need to be consistent in my book. It's the way it is.
I was so Maddie. We were just talking to producer Maddie over here, and he was talking about how his dad told him Denver won the game. Whenever he heard whenever he saw that Denver was trying to run out the clock, and then Baltimore ends up winning that game. Just so many. We don't have time to talk about all the bad stuff that I saw from Denver in that game. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. Let's start with local sports. We've got a new local sports sponsor. It's Peters. Is it Peters Family Living? That's how their business. We met with Bill Peters a couple of days ago, and a wonderful man, and it seems like a very good businessman, very smart, knows what he's doing. We'll have some commercials and things going for him in the very near future. And Peters Family Living, that's where it's at for furniture in Russellville. Been that way my whole life. So
definitely
go check him out. He is a Russellville staple for sure, and he's done a lot for the community. It's a local business. You can help him out. He understands what we're trying to do here with RiverValleyLeader.com, making this something that you can use as your local news source. We're proud to be partnered with Peters Family Living for our local sports. Clarksville traveled to Shiloh in basketball at Shiloh Christian in Springdale. Got a big win on the road in boys and girls action. Was a pretty impressive performance for the Panthers, who, it's not often in the 5A West you get to sit your starters most of the second half, and it's definitely not something that Clarksville expected this year. When last year, that's what happened nearly every game in conference. They get to sit their starters in the second half. But Dedrick Lee, 23 points on 8 of 10 shooting. 4 of 6 threes. Just a very efficient performance for him. 11 points apiece for Kendrick and Freddie Lee. 11 also for Devin Sims. 8 points for Jaron Thompson. And the Panthers win 79-57 over Shiloh Christian. Just another ho-hum performance in the 5A West.
Yeah, just another ho-hum performance. And, Mark, it makes me want to think back to the pre-conference schedule. We talked about all the tournaments Clarksville had played, and they were playing teams from out of state, playing some of the bigger teams. Fayetteville, they looked to be a really good team, better than I felt they were when they played Clarksville. So even though they lost to Fayetteville, that's looking to be an even better loss. And it prepares you for the 5A West because you're stepping up in classification, obviously, from 4A to 5A. There would normally be a tendency of saying, oh, okay, some big-time teams, bigger schools. But when you face teams like Fayetteville and Jonesboro and Northside, okay, now you're facing 5A teams. It's kind of a shrug of the shoulders. You're not really impacted by it. It doesn't scare you as much as it normally would. And I think that tough pre-conference schedule has positioned Clarksville to really play well in the 5A West.
That has to have something to do with it, and that's the plan that Coach Davis has had for the last 3 years is challenge yourself in the preseason, challenge yourself in tournament action, challenge yourself with back-to-backs and road games. And there's a couple times when they could have stayed the night in a city and played there the next day, and it would have been a lot easier on them. And he drives them back to Clarksville, and then goes back the next day just to get that experience. So that's a good point. The Pottsville Apaches won both. The girls lost. The boys won in Waldron, 68-47. They've had some battles with Waldron over the last couple of years, and Waldron apparently has a 6'5" kid that's just a man-child, 200 and some odd pounds, 6'5", big boy down there in the post for the Bulldogs. But Pottsville won 68-47. Tyler Weaver, 14 points. Travis Cole, 13. Michael Perry, 11. Not a lot of talk about Pottsville, but if you look at the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette's 4A state rankings, Pottsville's number 4 in the state. So they've come from nowhere. They've lost 3 games by a total of 5 points, all in tournament finals, in holiday classics and preseason tournaments. But Pottsville's coming on strong at just the right time.
Yeah, they are, Mark. And when we talk about Pottsville, we're talking about a balanced basketball team. I know you've mentioned several times about how that trip to Waldron is not easy and it's not fun, not just because of the team, but the drive itself is kind of tiring and taxing. And so for Pottsville to go there, you mentioned the big man they have and still play well. I was keeping up with that game as much as I could. It looks like Pottsville controlled it for the most part. Obviously, you don't expect for them to run a team like Waldron off by 30, 40, 50 points, but they still showed control, kept around a 20-point lead, and it was just a good win for the Apaches.
It definitely was, and we look forward to seeing them make the state tournament this year. I think I might have been the first one to out loud predict that.
Yeah.
Pottsville Apaches making the state tournament, and
so
then they're going to have a chance to make a run. One thing I don't like, and I talked to Coach Davis about this the other day from Clarksville, the AAA, who, I'll just keep my opinions on the AAA as a whole to myself. They make out the brackets way ahead of time. Clarksville already will know if they're to make the state tournament in the 5A, which everybody assumes they will, where they'll land based on what seed they get and who they'd end up playing. And Coach Davis pointed out that if they get the 1 seed out of the 5A West, they'll end up playing the best team from, I think it's the 5A South, Jacksonville, or maybe it's 5A Central, I don't know what they call it. They'll play Jacksonville in the semifinals. They already know that that's the way it is going to happen. It's not based on merit. It's not based on, a ranking of all the teams subjectively. It's a regional ranking, and you just go into this little hole, and I hate it.
And I think they've done that for football, too. They'll just match up the regions. Hey, the South and in the West, we're going to match them up to meet here and there. Yeah, that's a tough way to do it because – you're going to have maybe the 2 best teams or the team like a Jacksonville if they were to match up against a Clarksville. Having to see that matchup early would be unfortunate. It's almost like in college football this year, a lot of people felt the national title was played December 1st between Alabama and Georgia. So you hate when you see the best teams in the state meet up. We don't know that's going to happen, but it appears as though that's a possibility. Takes a little bit of the luster out of it.
It definitely does. Well, speaking of the luster being taken off, Friday was Colors Day for these Russellville Cyclones and Lady Cyclones, and there's nothing worse, and I know this from personal experience because on senior night, my senior night in basketball, we had the best team in the conference come in to the house and give us a butt whipping. Greenwood came in, and now they're in 6A. We were in 4A at the time, but they just whipped our tail all up and down the floor, and there was just nothing we could do about it. And that same thing happened to Russellville on Friday in both boys and girls action as Little Rock Parkview came in, and Little Rock Parkview is one of the top 3 teams in the state, and regardless of classification, and they showed it on Friday night as they were able to just from the start manhandle the Russellville guards, just pretty much taking the ball from them at will, and it's a tough situation. Coach Mann understood that it was going to be a tough proposition as he played 7 guys in practice against the offense. He had 7 guys on defense just to show them what they were going to deal with, and it really didn't seem to matter as Parkview had the athletes, had all the momentum going their way, and were able to roll downhill and get a win in both boys and girls action.
Yeah.
Ain't a whole lot to say,
it's really not. I mean, I talked to, I know you were there, I talked to some other people who were there, and, I thought about going. I went last week, saw them play a competitive, spirited game against Conway. And I was like, I may go see what's going on with Parkview, and then I thought better of it. But when I said I thought better of it, I thought maybe, okay, they'll probably stretch out. It may get to 30. Hopefully they'll play within 30, and 30 would have been a blessing if they could have got within that. It was tough. A young basketball team against the veteran athletes. They've got Division I players on that team, and was tough to watch. Tough to hear about.
I.J. Reddy from Parkview going to play at Mississippi State. Anton Beard, a junior, going to play at Missouri. It's going to be tough to beat them anywhere. So Parkview got the win. Arkansas Tech held off Henderson State 75-63 in men's basketball action. Willie Kirkland 26 points and 9 rebounds, both team highs, and the career high 26 points. Kendall Pinckney from Dardanelle had 10 points, and Jared Williamson of Russell scored 8. Arkansas Tech moves to 4-2 in the GAC, 8-5 overall. A big win against Henderson State. And then the Golden Suns got 17 points and 9 steals. You heard that right, 9 steals from Rosie Silva in a 67-49 win over Henderson themselves. We're going to talk here in just a little bit about another impressive steals performance here in just a little bit, as an Arkansas Razorback was only 1 steal away from tying the SEC record set by Arkansas's own Todd Day. We're going to go to break. When we come back, plenty more. We're going to talk about the NFL playoffs.
Set your sights on savings right now at Honda of Russellville. We're offering our best deals of the year on remaining 2012 Honda ATVs, plus special introductory offers on select new 2013 Honda ATVs, all with 0 down and easy monthly payments with approved credit. Be sure to check out the all-new Honda Foreman 4x4, now stronger, smarter, and harder working. How about a side-by-side? Well, Honda's got you covered with the Big Red. Honda's Big Red offers a proven Honda engine, automotive-style Honda automatic transmission with no belts to slip or break. Come in for a test ride today at Arkansas's legendary Honda dealer, Honda of Russellville.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval with Arkansas's first Rack Furniture Warehouse, where we have the largest selection of recliners and mattresses in the state of Arkansas. Come visit us at 2609 East Parkway, the Rack Furniture Warehouse.
AR Sports present the 2012 River Valley Football Magazine, featuring profiles of local high school football teams, as well as college football previews and player spotlights. Professional photography accompanies top-notch writing throughout to bring you the best locally focused publication in Arkansas. You'll enjoy special tributes to local legends Jerry Aiken and Don Sevier, as well as an exclusive interview with Razorback all-time great Clint Sterner in this year's magazine. Available at fine establishments throughout the River Valley. Pick up your copy of River Valley Football Magazine today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Live from the River Valley Leader Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
It's going to taste like vinegar as it passes my lips, but congratulations to the Baltimore Ravens on a 38-35 win over the Denver Broncos. Friday, if you watched the show, Sports Blitz, Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton here in studio. I predicted that the Denver Broncos would win the game, and it was the only game that I didn't hedge my bets by saying, I think this team's going to win, but I'll root for this team. I was all out, all in on Denver winning that game. How often will you see Peyton Manning throw 2 touchdown passes, nearly 300 yards, and you get 2 touchdowns in special teams from Trendon Holiday, and the number 2 defense or whatever it was, the top 5 defense in the league gives up 38 points, and you lose the game at home? Just a bad beat if there's ever been one for the Broncos.
It really was. You look at the Broncos and the start they got off to. You thought, well, I don't know, here we go again. Peyton throws that pick 6. They respond nicely. Holiday with the return, they score. Looks like they're going to settle in. But this Denver Bronco defense, I didn't quite trust them the whole year. Statistically, they were good. I thought they were good enough in combination with Peyton Manning to get the job done, maybe even get all the way to the Super Bowl. But to me, this is the same defense for the most part, that looked pitiful last year. I know they got stops and the whole Tebow magic, but ultimately when you broke that Denver defense down, they weren't that great, especially in the secondary, and it showed. And the questions now, Mark, are going to come to Peyton Manning. How much do you blame him? Did he choke again? All these difficult things to answer about Peyton. Some fair, some not fair.
And that's our Honda of Russellville poll question today. How much blame do you place on Peyton Manning for the loss the Denver Broncos took on the chin Saturday? I've got to place some blame on Peyton Manning because he did throw the big interception that set up the game-winning field goal. He did, I say set it up. It gave Houston, or good Lord, I'm stumbling all over myself here, that gave Baltimore the chance to win the game. He did have the interception return for the touchdown, and you could tell his arm strength wasn't quite where it was at one point in his career. But at the same time, where is this team without Peyton Manning?
Exactly.
Some of the throws that he made were just incredible. I have all year talked about how I don't like his receiving core. I don't really care for Eric Decker and Demaryius Thomas. You saw Demaryius Thomas several times just drop the ball. When their best receiver besides Eric Decker is Brandon Stokely, you know that a man that was made by Peyton Manning and is made again by Peyton Manning, that, I mean, he was nothing before Peyton Manning. He's been nothing since Peyton Manning. Now he's back to being something. It's Peyton Manning that's causing this. You made the mention the other day that Peyton Manning might be the best wide receivers coach of all time.
Definitely, yeah.
And I agree. Denver needs some wide receivers. They need help. They need help at wide receiver. I think they're going to need help at running back because Willis McGahee, he's not going to last forever. He's getting a little older.
Yeah,
Apparently they're going to need some DBs also.
And I think they like their receivers. I know we're not crazy about them, but I think they like Decker and Thomas to their size. I think you look at their offseason list, they're going to put receivers pretty low. I think one thing they're going to look at is the running game, definitely. They need help at running back. Willis McGahee, he's getting up there. I mean, you don't know if he's going to be back. No, Sean was all right, but he gets hurt. You got to have some depth. That hurt him. That secondary. I mean, what more can you say? Although I will say this, that I haven't heard anybody else bring it up. Raheem Moore definitely out of position, deserves some blame.
He's the one who the ball went flying over his head for the game-winning touchdown or the game-tying touchdown.
But you know what? I have to look at Jack Del Rio too. If you look at what they ran. 3-man rush. Okay, so you think, they're in quarters coverage. They got 4 deep. 3-man rush with 2 deep. You got a linebacker dropping, so I guess it's kind of like a 3 deep. But still, what kind of call is that? So you're not going to get any pressure on the quarterback, and you only have 2 safeties, and you know they're in a Hail Mary situation. I didn't like that to begin with. Again, Moore was out of position, but I don't understand that call. If you're going to drop guys, if you're going to not bring pressure, then you need to drop some guys back. Or if not, bring some heat if you're going to have 2 safeties. I didn't like what Jack Del Rio called in that situation.
You know, the worst part about it is that they got some pressure with just the front 4. They got a little bit of pressure, and Joe Flacco had to step up and at the last second just threw it up. The angle that Moore took was the worst. He was back there and took an angle in front of the player rather than going back at an angle toward the player and, closing up that gap in distance and knocking the ball down. And just long story short, he made a bad play. He misjudged where the ball was in the air. I played a little baseball and softball in my life, and I've been known to do that in my life too. So I'll have to give him some leeway there. I do think that Denver has got to get some secondary or some defensive back help. And when Champ Bailey's the best you got now at his age, and he got torched all day long by Torrey Smith, you're going to have to get some help
again, as far as I'm concerned. In terms of being in that position, I mean, Champ, he has to play one-on-one. He's got a one-on-one reputation. But when you see it's evident early that he can't handle it.
I mean, he was torched 3 times.
Exactly.
2 for touchdowns, and 1 was an overthrow.
Should have been a touchdown. Yeah, I mean, Jack Del Rio, to me, kind of spit the bit in that one. I hate to blame it on him because of what play Moore made, but you look at what Champ Bailey did. Again, I go back to playing a 2 deep in that situation. I got to look at him. Nobody else is, but I got to look at him a little bit. Peyton and John Fox for being conservative, taking a knee with 31 seconds. Man.
Yeah, on the other side, Baltimore, good win. Joe Flacco played very well in the fact that he had 3 long touchdown passes and just got enough out of Ray Rice. The defense stood up when they needed to. Let's look at the next game, though. We're just going to go in chronological order of when these games happen. San Francisco with a 45-31 win over the Green Bay Packers. I said before the season, and now both my Super Bowl teams are going, I had Green Bay beating Houston. Green Bay was not able to stop San Francisco whatsoever. Knew that was going to be the case, but didn't know it was going to be this bad. 263 yards and 2 touchdowns from Colin Kaepernick, 16 carries for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns out of the San Francisco quarterback, and Green Bay is unable to withstand the onslaught that was the San Francisco offense. I will tell you this, San Francisco, next week you're going to play a team with some semblance of defense in Atlanta, so you're going to have to throw this one away and understand that the Packers' defense was pitiful.
They were bad, but I've got to give Colin Kaepernick a lot of credit too.
Definitely.
And I said last week that this game, because everybody for the most part thought it was going to be close. Packers, Aaron Rodgers against 49ers in San Francisco. And I just felt like whatever San Francisco team shows up is going to tell you who wins. As great as Aaron Rodgers can be, the San Francisco 49ers, when they're clicking, can beat anybody in this league.
Yep.
Period. And I tweeted it. It's about pressure on Rodgers. If you get pressure in his face, you're going to have a chance to stop him. If not, he's going to pick you apart. He's arguably the best quarterback in the game, depending on who you talk to. He's a bad man, as Stephen A. Smith likes to say. And Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator, finally started getting some inside pressure, moving Rodgers off his spot. That Packers offense wasn't the same, although they did their job, definitely. They put up the points. They moved the ball up and down the field. But that defense, Mark, you're right. They need help at inside linebacker. They've got the pass rushers. They've got B.J. Raji up front clogging things up. Inside linebackers is a huge need for them, and then at safety a little bit. I think they need to look at some things.
Those 2 spots, and then at running back, if the Packers could get any sort of running game going whatsoever, they would be very, very dangerous on offense. I mean, they're already dangerous. Yeah, they're already dangerous on offense. Injuries on defense has hurt them for the last several years, but you can't always blame it on injuries. No, you got teams like San Francisco who are able to step up. Baltimore, the fact that they're in the second round of the playoffs or third round of the playoffs with all the injuries they've had on defense, suck it up.
And you know what a great example is? The Green Bay Packers. Look at themselves 2 years ago. How many people did they have on IR too? I mean, and the running game definitely. Who's the Harris kid? I like him, but they need a little more. That offensive line. I've always said strengthen your strengths. And the strength of that team is the offense. They'll work on the defense. But as long as Aaron Rodgers is getting hit, that offensive line, that's a problem because you're not going anywhere without Aaron Rodgers.
The first game of Sunday was another barn burner. Possibly, I'd say the second best game of the weekend is Baltimore's win over Denver was probably the most impressive. Atlanta gets a 30-28 win over Seattle. We've already mentioned Atlanta jumps out to a 20-0 lead and then a 27-7 lead. Holds on for the 30-28 win. Holds on's a little more of a understatement, as Atlanta had to come from behind in the waning moments of the game to get that win. Matty Ice finally gets that weight off his shoulders, gets that monkey off his back, and gets the first playoff win.
Man, when Russell Wilson and company were marching down the field and they took the lead, you had to be watching that game and saying, oh my goodness, with the Falcons, here we go again. They have blown it once again. Another great regular season just all gone to waste. That's the feeling I think a lot of us got. But I have to give the Falcons credit, and again, I'm going to give somebody credit who probably wouldn't get it otherwise. This Atlanta Falcons pass protection those last 2 plays. Seattle and Pete Carroll, we know they like to bring pressure. They brought it both plays. Great blitz pickup to complete those 2 passes to set up the game-winning field goal. I thought that was the key because without great protection, Matt Ryan probably wouldn't have got those throws off.
Big congratulations to Tony Gonzalez, 16-year career, first playoff win. 6 catches for 51 yards and a touchdown, including the last catch to set up the game-winning field goal. But to me, I was most impressed, and I understand that it was a comeback, come-from-behind effort. But Russell Wilson, 24 of 36 for 385 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 7 rushes for 60 yards and another touchdown. Russell Wilson is a man, and he's already, as a rookie, stepped in and made his name as one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I think he's got nowhere to go but up.
Definitely, too. I mean, you look going into the draft, I loved Russell Wilson. I said if this guy were Andrew Luck's size, he'd probably get picked ahead of him. No slight to Andrew Luck, but this guy, he has the command and the maturity of a 10-year vet as a rookie. I mean, he's really a special player. And, I know they got beat in heartbreaking fashion. The only thing I didn't like is something he said in the post game about, we'll be back next year. That's a little rookies being naive there. I mean, you think, I've got so much time to do it. It's the NFL. Injuries happen, bad breaks. You may get there as a rookie and never get back to your 15-year vet.
That's true.
And we're talking about vets and Ray Lewis retiring. Tony Gonzalez also announced that he's 95% sure he's gone. We hadn't really hyped up his tour in the media as far as this being his last run, but hey, Tony G.
Yeah, he had made mention of that in the last couple of weeks that, this is it. I'm not going to play anymore, most likely. And then yesterday in the post-game press conference, he's talking about, or post-game interview, he was talking about, I was pretty sad it was going to end that way.
Yeah.
So he was pretty sure that he was going to hang it up. So I'll look for Tony Gonzalez to do that. For Seattle, what do you see them needing to do to make it back? I know Russell Wilson, what I think he was meaning when he said we'll be back next year is I know what it takes to get back here. I've put in the work. I'm going to continue to put in the work. And it's going to continue to pay off. Like you said, though, there's no guarantee.
It is. I mean, that's the NFL, free agencies and cap casualties. But if I'm looking at Seattle and what they need to improve on, I need more dynamic players. They've got a big receiver in Sidney Rice. They've got a guy that can work the slot in Golden Tate. But I need somebody who's quick, who's dynamic, who I can get the ball in his hands and he can make some things happen.
Need a Percy Harvin.
I need a Percy Harvin type guy. I really do.
I've heard Percy Harvin's not happy in Minnesota, so make it happen.
And I think the team we're going to talk about next may also make a play in that direction because they have a similar need as well. You've got the physical running game of Marshawn Lynch, as I mentioned, the big physical receiver in Sidney Rice for play action. You need a dynamic player, though.
And finally, before we go to break, the New England Patriots do what the New England Patriots do. As they beat Houston 41-28 to advance to the AFC title game. Just another ho-hum Tom Brady, 344 yards and 3 touchdown performance. It's just, he's a machine. I've argued for years about Peyton Manning being better than Tom Brady, and I still think if you just look at what they can do, that Peyton Manning is in a class by himself. But Tom Brady gets it done every single year. He'll get as far as his team can possibly go, and they may lose Super Bowls, but has he been in 5 of them so far?
Yeah,
at least 5 Super Bowls that he's been in. So I have to take my hat off to New England. I hate them, but what they've been able to accomplish is very impressive. Another huge performance from Tom Brady.
Yeah, Tom Brady just sensational. He's consistent. I mean, he knows that offense inside and out. He knows where all the checks are. He knows where all the hots are. I mean, this the nonverbal communication with Brandon Lloyd down at the goal line. They had a run play call. He just flicked it out. I mean, this stuff is just like clockwork. And give Houston credit. They came out definitely playing more physical, more aggressive. They definitely redeemed themselves from the pitiful performance a few weeks ago. It just wasn't enough. They still didn't get enough pressure on Tom Brady. You've got to get, I say this all the time at quarterbacks, you got to get pressure in their face. Edge blitzes to the great ones don't matter. You got to get in their face. Houston still wasn't able to do that, Mark. And as we look forward, as we put a bow on the Houston Texans, they need another dynamic playmaker. They've got physical wide receivers, great play action. They don't get yards easily. Everything can't come off play action. You got to be able to drop back and throw the ball at times. They can't do that. Final quick thought, though, on the Patriots. No Gronk, Danny Woodhead hurt. This Ray Lewis momentum tour. I'm a little worried about my Super Bowl pick, just saying.
Yeah, Gronk re-breaks that arm.
Yeah.
That's what the early reports and indications are. That's a tough break, literally, for the New England Patriots. Early thoughts, you got a tough one there in Baltimore, well, in New England, with Baltimore coming in.
Yeah, I'm going to still favor New England. Check back with me on Friday, though. I do like that the Patriots have a running game that they haven't had in years past. It gives them more balance, takes pressure off Brady instead of just spreading out and slinging it like they've done in years past. But Baltimore, they're confident. Do they have enough energy to win another tough physical playoff game at New England? That's the question.
San Francisco, New England, Super Bowl.
That's what you got?
Yep, write it down.
I think you could be right.
Write it down. We're going to take a break. We come back, we've got a little bit more college basketball and a little bit of a interesting turn of events in the world of cycling. You don't hear us talk about cycling too often. Lance Armstrong, right after the break.
You won't get much closer until you sacrifice it all. Oh, you won't get to taste it with your face against the wall.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval again at Arkansas's first rack furniture warehouse, where Leon and I are back in business. We have gallery selection at quality warehouse prices here at the Rack Furniture Warehouse, 2609 East Parkway, Russellville.
Set your sights on savings right now at Honda of Russellville. We're offering our best deals of the year on remaining 2012 Honda ATVs, plus special introductory offers on select new 2013 Honda ATVs, all with zero down and easy monthly payments with approved credit. Be sure to check out the all-new Honda Foreman 4x4, now stronger, smarter, and harder working. How about a side-by-side? Well, Honda's got you covered with the Big Red. Honda's Big Red offers a proven Honda engine, automotive-style Honda automatic transmission with no belts to slip or break. Come in for a test ride today at Arkansas's legendary Honda dealer, Honda of Russellville. Live from the River Valley Leader Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
We're back on the Sports Blitz Monday. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton in studio. Producer Matty Boots Laster back there behind the buttons, pushing the buttons and making it sound as smooth and suave as he possibly can. That's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. We're back to talk Lance Armstrong. I don't know if you guys have seen this recently. It's come across the news that Lance Armstrong's going to meet with Oprah, and apparently Weldon is one to believe that Oprah doesn't play around, and if you've got something to say, you're not going to beat around the bush. You're just going to have to say it. Lance Armstrong apparently is going to admit to doping in a recorded interview with Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, I just think when you're dealing with Oprah looks for those watershed moments. I mean, you can go on ESPN and talk to Jeremy Shapton and beat around the bush. It's usually what you do when an interview with him and dance around the issue, but when you get Oprah, I mean, we're talking about the Oprah Winfrey. Usually, you don't beat around and then go with half denials and you don't know type you mentioned Roger Clemens type interviews. Usually, if you got something to say, it's like, I'm guilty. Yes, I used blood dope and I did these different things. I expect Lance to come out with something of that nature. He may try to make it a little bit softer. But I think the effect mark is what people are looking at. This man raised so much money. He was so active in his charities and cancer research. We know what he had to overcome. I was listening on the radio the other day about one of his emphatic denials from a few years ago. He was like, "What? I just got over cancer. No way am I going to do something to put myself back in jeopardy." He just pound on the table.
Cancer gets you in trouble.
Yeah. It's mind blowing to me. I look at this, what he did cycling wise. I don't want to sound mean or like I don't care, but that's the nature of that sport. Yes, it was illegal and you should be punished, do whatever, but you look to your left, you look to your right as you're pedaling up those big old mountains in France or whatever, and there's a doper over here, there's a doper over there. I mean, that whole, take your blood out and do stuff to it and inject
spin
it. Spin it. That's that sport. That's the nature of it. And so from a competitive standpoint, I can't sit there and say, I'm so devastated and cheated. But I will be sensitive to those who were inspired by his story from a cancer and a medical standpoint. And I would just say this to those people. I mean, whatever you've overcome, if you were inspired by Lance, that's great. But you're the one that put the work in. You're the one that went through the therapy and the processes. So don't feel like you've had something taken away. Your recovery is your own, and you should be proud of it no matter what.
Here. I definitely agree with that. ESPN.com reports, in what's being billed as a no-holds-barred session, the cyclist is expected to reverse course after a decade of denials and to apologize for doping, as well as offer a limited confession, that's key, about his role at the head of a long-running scheme to dominate the Tour de France with the aid of performance-enhancing drugs. I don't think there's a big shocker that's in there. I think when he comes out and what he's going to say, you're going to be, regardless, unless he comes out and says, I was a doping, cheating fiend and a scoundrel, and none of you should ever have listened to me. Unless he comes out and says that, I think everybody's going to be disappointed in what you hear. So I'm just going to tell you, temper your expectations, because you're not going to hear anything you didn't already know from Lance Armstrong. He may just tell you what you've already thought for many, many years. So I look forward to hearing what happens in that, but I'm not holding my breath about anything.
I mean, I know you're not a big cycling fan. I'm not either. But whatever great or positive memories you had of Lance, does it tarnish your thoughts of Lance at all? Because I'm just having a hard time saying, oh, it's ruined all my thoughts. I can't go there.
Well, I mean, I don't have any positive thoughts toward him anymore. Yeah. That's for one thing. But for two, Lance Armstrong, he took, and this is just like every cheater in every sport, you can't take back memories of positive experiences.
That's true.
You know, when the summer of 2000 to 2006 or whatever it was, where Lance Armstrong's winning all these titles, if you had a good memory, it's not going anywhere. It's just like, you know, a baseball player in, you know, the early 2000s, late, or say 98 even, a baseball fan who became a baseball fan because of the home run chase between McGwire and Sosa. You had a wonderful Saturday night in which you played ball out in the yard all night long because you watched that game and that home run, and that just changed your thoughts forever on that. You're not going to go back and lose those memories, forget those memories. So that, like you said about the recoveries for people, that's never going anywhere. Now, whether you have positive things to say about Lance Armstrong in the future, that remains to be seen. And people, I don't think anybody's going to have anything positive to say about him. So
I agree.
To me, it's kind of a non-story because it's over. It's been a long time over. So yeah, he's just going to try to repair his reputation. And I heard one person say, if you want to repair a reputation, going on Oprah and letting it all hang out is the way to start. So we'll see how that turns out, and we'll definitely report back on that. Well, you had a thought on concussions that we were talking about before the show with Rick, and it's just basically about the way football is going to change in the future.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a thought, you know, you and I were on radio last year. We talked about this, and you know, I want our River Valley Leader audience to hear what my thoughts are in light of the recent developments with Junior Seau. Of course, we know he took his own life last year, and you know, the results came out of that he had CTE, which is a brain disease that comes from injuries and repetitive hits. You would think that would be attributed to football, and so much talk and so much debate about, you know, is the sport safe, and the lawsuits and all these different things. And even Kurt Warner came out a while back and said he's not going to let his kids play. If you watch an ESPN documentary, they've talked about a UCLA linebacker who's had so many concussions to where he's not even going to play, even though he would be an early draft pick. And I just feel, Mark, that you'll never legislate danger out of the game of football. And look, I'm all for rule changes and tweaks to make things safer. I don't think you should be spearing people with your head down. I think that there's no place for that. That's not fundamentals. That's not what good coaches teach. But at the same time, football is not a contact sport. It is a collision sport, which means no matter what you do, you are going to have major injuries. And you don't have to play the game. You can go be an accountant. You can sit up here where we're at. You can do all these different things. But when you sign up to go between those white lines, you agree to take some risk. And my concern is that the NFL, they're blowing through that, and they're just saying we're going to make this game just absolutely perfect, and all the safety issues are going to be resolved. And you can't do that. Football is a dangerous game. You either accept it or you don't. That's why I don't, you know, former players got on Kurt Warner. Why would you tell your kids not to play? That makes the game look bad. No, I say good job, Kurt. Wish more parents, more people would say, you know what, that's not for my kid. Let's do something else.
See, I'm not one that would applaud or have a bad word to say about Kurt Warner in that situation. I would just say that's your opinion, and
we should emphasize
exactly. That's your right. This is America. You have rights. Constitution. You have the Constitution.
Maddie thinks those rights are going away, but
I'm one to think that football players, like you said, they get paid a lot of money at the highest level. The problem that they're having, and that this is something that the NFL has to deal with because they are the highest level, is that these injuries and stuff aren't just happening to NFL players. These bad injuries and debilitating injuries are happening now, even as low as the elementary football level, and that's something that they have to address, even if it's not necessarily fair, because they are the highest level of competition, and they are having to look out for all the way down. So in that vein, I think okay, I understand at least making the facade that we care, but at the end of the day, like you said, football is a violent sport. It's a collision game, and it's just like a bunch of car wrecks taking place over and over and over and over and over and over and over on the field, and these players are going to have to deal with that. Most of them are paid very handsomely in the NFL. All of them in the NFL are paid very handsomely to deal with that, and they do take that risk when they sign up. However, parents, it's where it's up to you. Like you said, like Kurt Warner did, if you don't want your son or daughter, obviously daughters don't play very long, but if you don't want your son to have to deal with that injury possibility, take up basketball.
Yeah, and I just, my whole point, Mark, and I agree with everything you said, well said, by the way. My whole deal is I would like for us as football, as a community, to emphasize the personal choice of it. We've gone so far to the legislative side of it that we're forgetting about the personal choice side of it. And again, it's a decision. You don't have to play football. I know it's popular and everybody wants to be involved. You don't want to feel left out. Go be a lawyer. Go be a teacher. I mean, you don't have to play this game. This game is not for everybody. There are some ugly, violent parts of it, and if you choose to do something else, I respect that. And that's the way I see it.
Definitely. All right. Finally, we got to look at college basketball. We're going to talk about the Hogs basketball win here in just a moment. We're trying to put that off as long as we possibly can because it was the ugliest thing that I've ever seen. As Vanderbilt, pretty sure they had more turnovers than points at one point in the game. Well, many points in the game and for a long time in the game. But I thought it was interesting that Duke lost yesterday and Duke lost Saturday and Michigan lost yesterday. So my national champion looks to be number one in the country.
Yeah, you're the national champion, the Louisville Cardinals, and I like them. I picked Indiana; they were kind of a trendy pick. I usually don't pick trendy teams,
and they still look pretty good.
They look pretty good, but Louisville in the tournament. I know you've mentioned the pressure defense of Louisville being a factor. I love it too. I like Indiana as well, but Mark, this is a year, and I know I sound like the Grinch when it comes to college sports because I said the same thing about college football. This is a very tough year in college basketball as far as identifying a team that you say, man, I like them. I mean, you look at Duke. I know they've got some injuries, but even without the injuries, I just look at another nice little well-coached Duke team that'll run into an athletic 4 seed in the Sweet 16 and get bounced. Michigan, worry about their size. Syracuse, worry about their depth. So many teams that this is just one of those years where I can see a 3 or 4 seed rising up, going to the Final Four, and possibly winning the title. Even a team like Kansas. I'm not overly impressed with them. Ohio State beat Michigan, but they had struggled prior to that as well. This is a year where college basketball, depending on your perspective, it's wide open. I don't see a dominant team at the top. I see a lot of teams kind of like a Florida in that 15 ranking range that could do some damage. It makes for drama in March, if that's what you like. Tough, though, as far as dominant teams. It should be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
Well, that's why they call it March Madness. I look forward to it. Right now, the Joe Lunardi Bracketology on ESPN.com has the 4 number 1 seeds as Duke, Michigan, Arizona, and Louisville. I have not been impressed with what I've seen from Arizona.
No,
seems like every time I've turned the TV on, they're nearly losing. They nearly lost at home. Kind of got I think it was, who was it? New Mexico or somebody got, I don't remember who it was. Got just absolutely shafted as a 3 hit at the buzzer, and they called it off, and it was good.
Colorado, I think.
Colorado. Yeah. It was one of those West teams.
Yeah, it's just they've got a lot of talent on that Arizona team. It's just it hadn't come together. I watched them play Oregon. I'm like you, Mark. I wasn't overly impressed. Don't want to give too much of my bracket philosophy away, but I'll share a little bit. I look at bracketology almost like the stock market. I like teams that I can invest in that not everybody else has jumped on. And a team like Florida, they're kind of hanging around there. VCU, Joe Lunardi's got them as a 6th seed. That is a fun basketball team to watch. If you have not watched the Rams, you need to. Hands down, best pressure defense team in the country. They press the way we hope Arkansas begins to press. Very great job. Of course, it's Shaka Smart, so you expect nothing less.
Well, it's tough to talk college basketball until the tournament starts, and I think that's probably why a lot of people don't like the tournament style or the playoff style that college football is about to go to, because it will weaken the regular season. And for us, it's tough to talk about college basketball for extended amounts of time because, this all could matter zero here in a couple months when the brackets come out, because it's really about who gets hot late in the season and carries it over into the NCAA tournament. So we'll continue to look at college basketball, but we're not necessarily going to pick through it with a fine-tooth comb. We're just going to look at overall themes and things that we see in college basketball. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got to look at the Arkansas Razorbacks. They've got some recruiting news in football, and also the Hogs basketball team moves to 1-1 in the SEC, and that loss doesn't necessarily look as bad now.
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval with Arkansas's first Rack Furniture Warehouse, where we have the largest selection of recliners and mattresses in the state of Arkansas. Come visit us at 2609 East Parkway, the Rack Furniture Warehouse.
Set your sights on savings right now at Honda of Russellville. We're offering our best deals of the year on remaining 2012 Honda ATVs, plus special introductory offers on select new 2013 Honda ATVs, all with zero down and easy monthly payments with approved credit. Be sure to check out the all-new Honda Foreman 4x4, now stronger, smarter, and harder working. How about a side-by-side? Well, Honda's got you covered with the Big Red. Honda's Big Red offers a proven Honda engine, automotive-style Honda automatic transmission with no belts to slip or break. Come in for a test ride today at Arkansas's legendary Honda dealer, Honda of Russellville.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval again at Arkansas's first Rack Furniture Warehouse, where Leon and I are back in business. We have gallery selection at quality warehouse prices here at the Rack Furniture Warehouse, 2609 East Parkway, Russellville.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Live from the River Valley Leader Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
Taking a quick peek, at the Arkansas Razorbacks basketball schedule. The Hogs 10-5, now 6th in the SEC after a 56-33 win over Vanderbilt, who had 33 points and about as many turnovers in that game on Saturday. Vanderbilt played terrible. It was 22-11 at the half or whatever it was, just something terrible. And Arkansas, 21-11 at the half, and Arkansas picked it up a little bit in the second half and went ahead and won by 23 points. Marshawn Powell started 8 for 8, had 17 points, finished 8 of 9 shooting with 17 points, 6 rebounds, 6 steals, 2 blocks. I said early on when Marshawn Powell was 2 for 2, goody, Arkansas got the good Marshawn today. You never know which one's going to show up. The good one showed up, and the Hogs just ran away with the win against Vanderbilt, who had 33 points and 25 turnovers. Let that sink in.
Vanderbilt. And I know they were coming off an emotional, controversial loss to Kentucky, and they had to go on the road. But still, That's the performance they put down. I'm not complaining because Arkansas needs all the help they can get. And just, I can't get my mind off Vanderbilt for a second. You lose Jenkins and Taylor and Azili, I guess you're going to struggle. But Lord have mercy, 33 points. And it was the medicine Arkansas needed. And we've talked about it before the year. In this watered-down SEC, if you take care of your business, you have a chance to reel off some victories. But you got to take the opportunities when they're there. Now, Arkansas got it done at home. We expect for them to continue to get the job done at home. Of course, Mark, we know the enigma is the road. Now, Auburn's at home next. Do you know when the next road game is? Do you have that?
The Arkansas next road game, let me look. I was looking at the box score. They will travel to Ole Miss on, Saturday. Tad Pad.
Yeah.
12:30 game.
And they got a decent team, so yes, that's going to be tough,
What happens when Arkansas plays at the Tad Pad? It doesn't matter if you bring Corliss, Joe Johnson, and all them back. You lose at the Tad Pad. That's just what happens. Sorry. They lost by 15. Ole Miss beat Missouri by 15 this weekend. That's right. Just what the world just happened. The number 10 team in the country goes in and gets beat down by Ole Miss.
Frank Haith happened. He happened.
Yeah, Haith happens, huh? But Arkansas does host Auburn 7 o'clock on Wednesday. They will get to travel to the Tad Pad on Saturday. Maybe Auburn will give Arkansas a little more confidence in this 2-game winning streak possibly going into the Tad Pad, and then the Hogs will have a chance. But I would not hold my breath. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you now, I don't predict Arkansas to win another road game the entire season. Until they win a road game, I won't believe it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I think I was telling somebody that the other day. I'm looking at this schedule, and I see winnable road games all over the place. But after what you saw against A&M, how can you pick Arkansas to win a road game? Now, you touched on it. That lost A&M doesn't look quite as bad as they got a victory at Rupp Arena against Kentucky. I was at Rupp, right? That A&M. Yeah, I mean, road win against Kentucky. I know Kentucky's had their ups and downs, but what is A&M doing? I mean, football, they come in, just take us by storm. Trying to do it in basketball, although I still don't believe they will.
Yeah, it's looking at the rest of the schedule. Ole Miss on the road. There are 8 games on the road. At Ole Miss, at South Carolina, Alabama, Vanderbilt, Auburn, Florida, LSU, and Missouri. A couple of those, like you said, should be winnable. South Carolina, Alabama's not great. Vanderbilt, they're okay. Auburn and LSU, but you're not going to win against Missouri. You're not going to win against Kentucky on the road. You're not going to win against
Kentucky
Missouri.
Should be here, right? Kentucky. Oh, that should be.
I'm sorry, I was looking at LSU. Okay. Yeah, you're probably, you could win there. You're not going to win at Missouri, and you're not going to win at the Tad Pad. I'm just because of recent history, you're not going to win against Mississippi on the road. Just my opinion, of course. But Arkansas does have some chances to pick up wins on the road. It's just one of those, I'm going to believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have that attitude. And I think if you're Arkansas, again, I go back to what I've been saying all along. You've got to take care of your minimums. You play a team like South Carolina on the road, you have to win that. You play any of these other poor teams away from home, you have to. Obviously, winning at home, it goes without saying. And then at home, can you steal a Kentucky, a Florida, a Missouri, steal maybe one or two of those games? Because you have to start thinking about your resume. And right now, with the RPI as low as it is for the SEC, Arkansas doing absolutely nothing in non-conference in terms of winning games. You have to start thinking about the Hogs' resume, and there's not a whole lot of opportunities to help yourself on the schedule.
For that resume to improve, you're going to have to see something out of somebody not named Powell or Young. Marshawn Powell, 17 points, 14 for B.J. Young. Nobody else in double figures. Nobody else over 6 points. Hunter Mickelson had 6 points in that game Saturday, and that's a home game. You don't have any excuse for not being able to shoot. It's in your gym. You know everything about it. You're comfortable. You slept in your own bed. To me, this team has got a lot to work on. Do you like Fred Gully starting? What do you expect to see from Arkansas? What do you hope to see as far as improvements to go ahead and improve that resume? Because the fact that we're even talking about the NCAA tournament right now is kind of comical to me.
Yeah, they do. They have to get better individually. I mean, you have players with ability. I look at Ricky Scott. He's got some ability. His decision-making still needs to get better. I look at a guy like Hunter Mickelson, still needs to be more assertive. He looks like he's playing in the NBA as far as the speed of the game all around him. Like, oh, my goodness, what's going on? I imagine that's how Clarksville had him looking a couple years ago in the title game.
I could tell when he's a senior and he's getting beat up by 6'1", and he's 7 foot. And he had 4 or 5 air balls in the game because he was just shooting fadeaways from the free throw area, free throw line extended out. I thought this guy's going to have to grow up. He's going to have to get in the weight room, and he's going to have to grow a set because he's not playing the way that a guy his height and build should be able to play. And that all the skill set that guys like Ron Crawford will talk about, and the fact that he can shoot it and he can run, he's going to have to show me because he's got ability.
Yeah, and even as a shooter, I'm glad you brought that up because ultimately I think that's where his game is going to go. If he's going to go anywhere, he's going to be almost a Dirk-like mid-post type player. But he doesn't even look comfortable shooting the ball. I've seen him make shots. I've seen his jumper. It looks like he can make shots, but he just gets nervous and he rushes. I think if he were to take his time, set his feet, he could be a consistent mid-range jump shooter and maybe even make a few deep shots, but he just rushes. I don't know if he's nervous or what.
All right, we got to get out of here. We've run overtime today. But one other thing I want you to pay attention to, Arkansas basketball fans, Mardrakus Wade didn't play in the second half. I think it was maybe an attitude issue, maybe it was a production and effort issue, but he's been one of the best defenders for Arkansas, and he's got to become a better shooter. I mean, he's a more consistent shooter because he's one of the best shooters Arkansas's got. He and Anthlon Bell both. And Anthlon, I know you went 0 for 5 from 3 also, so keep shooting it. It'll eventually go in. He definitely doesn't lack for confidence.
Yeah, and Wade, the SEC's 3-point percentage leader last year. I don't know what's happened to him. So.
Hogs shot 9 of 10 from free throw line, 16% from the 3. So they've forced some turnovers, held Vanderbilt to 25% shooting and 25 turnovers. There are things that they can build on and definitely get better. So please don't take this as all negative against the Hogs. We want them to do well. We just look at what they need to fix.
There you go.
We'll break down in greater detail the NFL playoff games, and hopefully we're talking a little bit about what Lance Armstrong said on the couch. Maybe he's not jumping on the couch with Oprah here in the next couple of days. We'll be back on Wednesday at 11 for Weldon. I'm Mark. Y'all have a good day.